Was Dracula real? The shocking story of Vlad the Impaler. What if the most terrifying vampire in history wasn't a monster from fiction, but a real man? A man so brutal, his name alone struck fear into the hearts of kings and peasants alike. This is the shocking story of Vlad the Impaler, the real-life Dracula. But was he a bloodthirsty tyrant, or a misunderstood hero fighting for his people? The truth is darker, stranger, and more twisted than any legend you've ever heard. Dracula, the name alone sends shivers down your spine. For centuries, he's been the face of horror in books, movies, and nightmares. But what if Dracula wasn't just a fictional character? What if he was inspired by a real man? A man who lived over 500 years ago. A man whose real story is even more terrifying than the legends. This is the story of Vlad the Impaler. A ruler, a warrior, and a man who earned his gruesome nickname. But how did a medieval prince become the inspiration for the world's most famous vampire? To understand, we need to go back to the beginning. To a time of war, betrayal, and bloodshed. Vlad was born in 1431, in a world where survival meant being ruthless. His father, Vlad Dracula, was a member of the Order of the Dragon. This secret society was dedicated to defending Christianity against the Ottoman Empire. But Vlad's childhood was far from peaceful. At just 12 years old, Vlad was sent as a hostage to the Ottoman court. This was a tactic to ensure his father's loyalty. But this experience would shape Vlad forever. It was here that he learned the art of war and the power of fear. And when he returned home, he would use these lessons in ways no one could imagine. But first, he had to reclaim his throne. Vlad's father was dead, betrayed by his own nobles. His older brother, Mircea, was buried alive. And the throne of Wallachia was up for grabs. Vlad was determined to take back what was rightfully his. But he knew he couldn't do it alone. He formed alliances, but he trusted no one. In 1456, Vlad finally seized the throne of Wallachia. But his reign would be anything but ordinary. Vlad's first act as ruler was to eliminate his enemies. Vlad's defiance of the Ottomans was a dangerous game. But he was ready to fight for his people and his freedom. In 1459, the Ottomans sent envoys to demand tribute. They expected Vlad to bow, as his father had. But Vlad had other plans. He treated them as guests at first. Then he asked them, "Why do you not remove your hats in my presence?" The envoys refused, claiming it was their custom. Vlad's response was swift and brutal. He had their hats nailed to their heads, permanently. This was Vlad's message to the Ottomans. He would not be controlled. But the Ottomans were not easily intimidated. In 1462, they invaded with a force of 90,000 men. Vlad's army was outnumbered and outgunned. But Vlad had a plan. Vlad's reign was marked by extreme brutality. He used impalement as his signature method of execution. This gruesome tactic was designed to instill fear in his enemies. But Vlad's cruelty wasn't limited to his enemies. He believed in absolute order and absolute fear. One story claims he once invited beggars to a feast. After the meal, he asked them, "Do you want to live without care?" When they said yes, he locked the doors and set the hall on fire. Vlad believed he was doing them a favor, as the beggars will never feel hunger or cold. But his methods made even his allies fear him. In 1462, Vlad was betrayed by his own brother, Radu. Radu had joined the Ottomans, promising to bring peace to Wallachia. Vlad was forced to flee, leaving his throne behind. But he wasn't done yet. He launched a series of raids, striking at the Ottomans and his enemies. Centuries after Vlad's death, his story inspired a new legend. In 1897, Bram Stoker published Dracula, a novel that would change history. Stoker borrowed Vlad's family name, Dracul. In Romanian, Dracul means the dragon or the devil. Stoker combined these elements to create Count Dracula. But Stoker's Dracula was very different from the real Vlad. Vlad was a ruthless ruler, but he wasn't a vampire. He didn't drink blood, but he did spill a lot of it. Stoker's novel blurred the lines between history and myth. And it sparked a global obsession with vampires. But was Stoker's Dracula really based on Vlad? Historians debate this question to this day. Some say Stoker only borrowed the name. Others believe Vlad's brutal reputation inspired the character. Whatever the truth, Vlad's legacy lives on in Dracula. Vlad the Impaler and Count Dracula are forever linked. But how much of Dracula's story is based on fact, and how much is fiction? Let's start with the facts. Vlad was a real man who ruled Wallachia in the 15th century. He was known for his brutal tactics, especially impalement. But he was also a skilled military leader who defended his people. Now let's look at the myths. Dracula is a fictional character created by Bram Stoker. Stoker's Dracula is a vampire who drinks blood and lives forever. But Stoker didn't invent vampires. He borrowed from folklore. So, where does Vlad fit into this story? Stoker likely read about Vlad's brutal reign and his family name, Dracul. But Stoker's Dracula is very different from the real Vlad. Vlad didn't drink blood, but he did spill a lot of it. Stoker's novel wove history and myth into a tapestry so intricate, it's hard to tell where one ends and the other begins. Vlad the Impaler's legacy is as complex as the man himself. To some, he was a hero who defended his people against overwhelming odds. To others, he was a monster whose cruelty knew no bounds. But one thing is certain, his story has endured for centuries. In Romania, Vlad is still celebrated as a national hero. His image is everywhere, from coins to stamps to souvenirs. But his connection to Dracula has overshadowed his historical significance. For many, Vlad is no longer a man, but a myth. And that myth has shaped how we see him today. But Vlad's story is more than just a tale of horror. It's a story of survival, leadership, and the cost of power. It's a reminder that history is rarely black and white. And it's a testament to the power of storytelling. Because Vlad's story didn't end with his death. It lives on in books, movies, and our collective imagination. So, was Dracula real? The answer is both yes and no. Vlad the Impaler was a real man, with a real story. But Dracula is a fictional character, born from myth and imagination. The two are forever linked, but they are not the same. And the mystery of Dracula will continue to captivate us for generations to come. Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more fascinating stories from Recall the Chronicles. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.